gracious hosts, unique lodging, and tasty cuisine. New Mexico bed and breakfasts are New Mexico true. Our innkeepers are as special as New Mexico, and we're sharing their stories. Read about them and plan your trip at nmbba.org. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio's second Thursday New Mexico show, where we get to talk about travel, food, events, and of course, lodgings. And we do this with innkeepers who belong to the New Mexico Bed and Breakfast Association. So it's all about staying in authentic lodgings, meeting the innkeepers and their staff, having a really personalized, intimate experience in the places that you go when you travel New Mexico. So to plan your trip to New Mexico, the land of Enchantment, it is one of the most beautiful states. Go to the website nmbba.org, stands for New Mexico Bed and Breakfast Association. So we do this every second Thursday. So stay tuned at bigblendradio.com. So today we're going to go to Northern New Mexico, and we're going to go to two bed and breakfasts that are outside of Santa Fe, so a little bit on the remote side, and they've both been on the show before, but today we're going to really talk about what their inns are like, what the what does it feel like to experience and stay there, and what there is to see and do. So we're going to start off with Tom and Carolyn Calfee. They own and run the Grand Hacienda, which is at Abiquiu-Lake. And I don't even know if I'm saying this correctly. I've got to see if my pronunciation is correct. This, again, is outside of Santa Fe. In fact, they were on the front cover of our recent Quality of Life magazine, which you can see if you go to blendradioandtv.com. But I encourage you to go to their website. It is thegrandhacienda.com. So welcome back, Carolyn. How are you?
Well, I am great, and thanks for having us again, and also thanks for featuring us on that cover. We appreciate it.
Well, how could we not? It was such a cool picture. I mean, who does it? A quality of life painting with that amazing view, being outdoors in nature. I mean, come on. I think it was the epitome of it, right? Like that. The only thing was missing was a glass of wine. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we have that too. In fact, we are one of the few bed and breakfasts in New Mexico that actually has a liquor license. So happy hours are an important part of the experience. But I'll tell you a little bit about the Grand Hacienda. So we're a boutique inn. We have only 3 suites. So it's a very intimate, private experience when you stay with us. We are about 2 years old. Tom and I built this whole hacienda, a traditional, authentic hacienda. So you have all the newest technologies, but a very authentic feel. And the hacienda is built on a mesa overlooking this incredible lake, Abiquiu-Lake, and across from the lake are the red cliffs that George O'Keeffe made famous, and also Ghost Ranch. So the land itself, we like to say that we built the hacienda with the land rather than on the land, but really the land itself is what makes this experience so incredibly special.
That's awesome.
But when you add to that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's awesome. I do want to bring up everybody, so we'll circle back around. I wanted to introduce Tom on the show too. So welcome, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good. I want to get to, and I also want to just bring Ernesto on. Ernesto Ernesto Quintero. He and his wife Renee own and run Casa Escondida in Chamayo. Here we go again, Ernesto. I'm never going to get it right until we get there, see? And also they have innkeeper Kim Sanchez, but go to casaescondida.com. I want to say Escondido because I used to live in San Diego, but welcome back, Ernesto. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me back. I was looking forward to this.
And Chamayo, would say it so I can get it right. Chamayo. Okay, so I wasn't too bad. Okay, and so Tom, I did get Abiquiu right. Is that did I do that good?
Abiquiu, you nailed it. Yeah, that's
okay. We got
hard to do the first time, but good job.
It's well, because I think it's something. That's the thing about going to New Mexico is it's so. You've got all these different terms from Spanish, Mexican heritage, and so it's something to really start, and Native American culture, right? So it's very multicultural when you go to New Mexico. So it's easier to grasp the names once you go there. And that's the whole thing, is everyone should go. I want to go back to you, Carolyn. Just in regards to, you were saying that you guys built this with the land, and that's something I think that's important. Tell us a little bit about that process of why you guys decided to even do this and move to New Mexico.
Well, that is a long, crazy story. Tom and I both have careers in Wall Street, and so this was a big change. But I'm going to let Tom answer that, because he actually found this land and discovered it, and he designed the hacienda.
Wow,
and was
Tom.
very involved in it. So this is the perfect question for him.
Tom, yeah, take it away. Tell us.
Okay, and I can best describe how we found it as Georgia O'Keeffe said, and this is immersed right in Georgia O'Keeffe land, where our Grand Hacienda is often the area that she painted, which would be right at the base of Pedernal. And it wasn't too difficult to find. I think it found us. And the first time we laid eyes on it, brought the whole family back the very next day. And then we made our first land purchase there 2 days later. It wasn't really about talking about if it was right. We just knew it was right. And so it took us a while to get there. And with careers, and Carol and I both had careers, and she actually did more traveling than I did. But it took us a while to get there. And then once we finally could, and we had the option to do it, let's say, let's go all in. Let's go out and let's do something we've never done before. Let's open up a bed and breakfast.
Wow. And so you designed the actual, the lodgings themselves. So, what was that process like to actually build it? Because I want to get to Ernesto too, about him and his wife, taking over Casa Escondido, because a lot of times that is the circumstance. A lot of inns are people coming in and falling in love with the area, that gut instinct that you belong there. But it's normally like a historic place or something. There's that story, but you guys go in and like, hey, we're going to build this. What is that process like? Because I don't know, everybody trying to get things done right now are going like, I can't even get my kitchen remodeled. Like, what are you talking about? You built a whole B&B, it's a hacienda. It's not just a B&B. This is like an estate.
It is, and it had a lot of one-offs to it. And so we became very involved. We were fortunate enough to have a general contractor who let us become very involved in the project, which was helpful. And we believe that when you're remodeling a project, or when you're coming to a project that already exists, you have some limitations on what you can do, but not when you're building from scratch. It's completely open to you. So we were able to do like insulated floors and floor heat. And when I was in college, I used to run the greenhouse. And one of the problems with greenhouses is they just get too hot. And so a lot of time and energy spent in cooling down greenhouses. But we were able to find these ream heaters, these hybrid water heaters that we put in our greenhouse that also cool down our greenhouse and heat our concrete floors at the same time. So there were a lot of one-offs here, such as we're solar. The greenhouse and the gardens, we raise a lot of the food that we serve to our guests. We do that right on premise. A lot of that's because we want to, but the other part is it's based on need. As I'd mentioned just a little bit earlier before we started talking, we're 45 minutes from the nearest grocery store. And so we just, you forget a gallon of milk, you just can't go to the store to get it. And so we have to have a lot of the items and foods that we serve and make available to our guests. We have to have those on premise. And so we do a lot of that. And so with the greenhouse, we were able to, we were kind of into searching for healthier ways to live, more eco-friendly ways to live. And so we reduced EMFs in our house. We were able to do that by keeping all the electrical cables away from bedrooms, by utilizing low EMF technologies. And when we did have electrical cables, We encased those in metal to keep the EMF down, and whenever we had breaker boxes in rooms, we did the whole room in aluminum to take those EMF waves and push them out from the house. And so we grounded our floors, and so that walking, we encourage people to walk barefoot at the Grand Hacienda, because it gives you that same kind of feeling like walking on a beach with the water, where you get the ions flowing through your body. Earthing is kind of the concept that it's called. And we just tried to make it all in all just the healthiest place that we wanted to be. And that way it became the healthiest place that our guests got to come to also.
That's really amazing when you talk about going barefoot. That's such a big deal. I mean, as we all scurry around cities and things like that, we forget to take our shoes off. And I have friends that are barefoot hikers in New Mexico, by the way. They'll go out there, rattlesnakes, whatever, and do that. But because it's really about consciousness, and being aware of where you are and slowing down. And I think that what you're saying is that's such a huge deal, to just be barefoot and be, just be one with nature. I know as a musician, when I performed, it was always barefoot, because there was something like, if I put shoes on, I'm going to fall down on stage. I don't know what something's going to happen to me, but there was like a real connection. I can't explain it, but it was always, when I performed, it was always barefoot. And
that's a really good point.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we so much agree with you. And where we are is it's just deep and rich Native American history. Mm-hmm. It's one of the, or maybe the only place that the Navajo actually settled, and they were nomads. It settled for generations. I think 5 or 6 generations they settled in this area. It was just so appealing to them. And so they were such great stewards of the land that we took it upon ourselves to be great stewards of the land. And like you were talking about going barefoot, and how that just kind of anchored you and centered you and gave you balance when you had that. We felt that completely at the Grand Hacienda also.
That's amazing. I love to hear that. I want to go to Ernesto over in Chimayo. I want to go there because it's just such a cool name. Over at Casa Escondida. Ernesto, tell us a little bit about the history of your inn, because it just is so beautiful. It's got that adobe feel that that is New Mexico. I know some of the Southwest adopts that in, but it is so New Mexico. What was it that, led you and your wife to say, hey, we're in, we need to do this? And, that, was it the land? Was it the actual building? I mean, I know you're into food and you've been in the restaurant world for a while. So that's a good second nature thing, but there's something magic, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's an interesting story. My wife and I actually found Casa Escondida, probably maybe like 23 years ago. And we found it just kind of accidentally. We wanted to maybe stay there as guests. We were, I think I mentioned last time we were on, my one side of my wife's family is all from Albuquerque, is where they all live now. And so we'd been visiting from California, and we wanted to take a trip north, and we were going to the Santuario. And when we were there, I mean, Chimayo is a very small town. So there's not a lot in the town in terms of lodging and that kind of thing. And so we had stumbled across Casa Escondida, and we didn't end up being able to stay. And this same pattern, but we sort of were like, wow, kind of about Chimayo in general. It's not unlike what Tom was saying, the land itself in Chimayo is very special. And I think there's a lot that you can read about it historically. And I mean, both the Santuario and sort of the lore of, how the red chili that is grown in Chimayo is, sort of world renowned, in the sense that the earth itself is very special there and what it produces. So anyway, we really found love with the area. And over the course of the next literally 15, 20 years, we sort of kept saying, oh, we need to stay there. And it just never worked out. Either the room we wanted was booked or whatever it was, but it was always sort of in our minds as something we wanted to do. And And then I may have mentioned this last time, but we'd kind of had this like fantasy of maybe opening a B&B at some point in our life. And so it was always just kind of on my radar. And we were actually in Hawaii. It was my 50th birthday. And I just happened to open my email, and I was on a list that the main picture that came up was Casa Escondida. And that's when we first found out it was up for sale. And we pretty much immediately contacted the broker and went on an almost year journey to become the new owners. And we're actually only the third owners of Casa Escondida. So originally, so it's 6 acres and eight distinct rooms. And it was originally a family home. And one of the rooms, which is our casita, used to be the woman of the house was a weaver, which I think maybe a lot of you would know that Chimayo is very famous for weaving. And so this family, this was one of the things that the woman did. And anyway, it was later turned into what we call the casita, which is our largest sort of private little room. It's outside of the main house, and it's really adorable. It has its own kiva fireplace and whatnot. But in terms of the history of it, it was originally a family home. And then there was when the family sold it, there was a woman who bought it and turned it into a B&B. I think she stayed actually for maybe 8 years. And then the next buyer, which is the woman we purchased it from, who was Belinda, she was there, 20 years and ran it as Casa Escondida for 20 years. So we're very new, as you know. We just took over last February. And but, it was, I think it had been calling to us for a long time. And then it really just sort of felt like it fit. And it was interesting when all was said and done, and Belinda and I were sitting across each other at the kitchen table when she was originally doing the training for us. And it was just me and her for the day. And I said, I know how much you love this place. I mean, as a small business owner for many years, I could just feel the love she had for it. And I said, like I was saying, I know it took you a while to she said, well, I knew it was time to retire, but it took me a while to kind of get here. And I said, she said, many fell apart. I joked with her that she'd been waiting for me. and so that's kind of how it happened. And yeah, I mean, we feel so lucky is the truth. I mean, I think similarly to what Tom was saying, I think for us, we feel like we are sort of the new caretakers is really the way we think of it. That Casa Escondida is kind of its own beautiful, amazing thing. And we're just lucky to be the ones there right now, trying to take it to the next, level of where it's going to go. One interesting thing about the place is that there's this, we call it the quote unquote unfinished structure. There's a structure that's on the 6 acres. And what we were told is that one of the sons of the family was an adobe builder himself. And he started to build a structure at some point. And then for whatever reason, he stopped. And when they moved, it was just sort of there. So now it's been sitting there, for like 30 years. And we had a contractor come out and look at it and to tell us, kind of what the, where was it at, after sitting there for this long. They said, oh my God, it's like actually in incredible condition. and they felt really impressed, that this young person had, been building this. And so anyway, our long-term plan there is we do elopements as part of, what you can do in terms of experiencing Casa Escondida. And our plan is to finish the unfinished structure, but leave it as a sort of open air space and be able to do slightly bigger weddings and, let people be able to do retreats and stuff like that. What we find that people are really wanting when they come to Casa Escondida is really the sort of unplugging element and to relax. I mean, I think there's something about the way they can see the stars and the land itself, and it just sort of, helps them decompress a little bit, which I think all of us out in the world beyond these beautiful little towns know the desire to decompress, right?
I think that's the thing about bed and breakfast. Number one, you don't have to go search for breakfast somewhere. You don't have to make it. And it's part of the experience. And there's something just it's like, I think with both your properties having that, just outside of the area kind of thing, you're in unincorporated
Yeah.
lands. That's got its own
Yeah.
mystique for people just seeking some solace. And I want to go to you,
Yeah.
Carolyn, when you think about, tell us a little bit about the rooms. Just think about when people are booking, what they're looking for, the type of guest that comes and stays, and what their experience is like. What are the rooms like? Breakfast included. Where do they go for dinner? Because I know you're out in the nature land.
Well, absolutely. So, first I'll say we have the same experience our guests do, where they show up and they have a list of 100 things they want to do. There's so many things to do in the Abiquiu area, and they all, I give them a list in advance. They know what they want to do, and they come with all these plans, and then they walk in and they see the lake and the red cliffs, and they don't want to leave the property. And so their trip often changes, where they just start kind of, we call it renewing your soul, or recharging your soul becomes almost more important than going to Ghost Ranch or doing the river wave. So we have that same kind of experience. But we have 3 suites, and all of them are incredibly private and incredibly different. But they all have common features. We opened 2 weeks before COVID hit. And so the planning we had done was so perfect for that environment, because everyone has their own private entrance from the common courtyard. So there's no, hallways they have to walk through, or, joint spaces. Everyone has their own private outdoor portal, or, New Mexico word for patio. They all have their own private chimney of fire pots. So everybody has, brand new spa showers and king size beds and great linens and fabulous views from every window, fabulous views. So when our guests come here, we're kind of in an artist colony, and yet hiking is so incredible. So we get a lot of people who want to do outdoors or want to follow George O'Keeffe or kind of walk in her footsteps. And then we get a lot of people who just want to grab a yoga mat and relax and watch the stars at night and enjoy a fun culinary experience. You'd asked about breakfast. Well, our breakfast every morning is a 3-course gourmet breakfast. And as Tom had mentioned, we use a lot of vegetables and herbs that we grow on site.
That's so cool.
And if we can't, and it's really a fun way to experiment with different herbs and different types of foods. And if we can't grow it, then we next go to our local farmers and farmers markets, and even to the farmers markets in Santa Fe. But breakfast is an incredible experience for everyone. And then, we have a kitchen for our guests to use, so they're welcome to cook for lunch or dinner. We also have 4 or 5 good restaurants in Abiquiu. That is an option for everyone. And then we also can bring catered meals in, which is probably at this point about 80% of our guests prefer to just stay on site and have meals catered in. So there are options in the village, though, and the village is, a 15, 20-minute drive.
No, that's not too bad.
So food is a big part of the experience for sure. And I imagine it's similar with all B&Bs in New Mexico.
I think that is the, New Mexico. I mean, it's, that's the thing about, showcasing the Southwest. There's definitely different, things that are grown. I know, Ernesto, you were on the show talking about food last time, and it really is a big deal, So tell us one breakfast dish, give us like an example of one, 3-course meal that we can have, Carolyn, at the Grand Hacienda, so that people can start drooling.
All right. Well, we might start with sourdough bread with a perfectly cooked egg on avocado toast as a starter. One of our famous dishes is a blue corn pineapple pancake, where the pancake is made around blue corn, and then there's a homemade coconut sauce that's drizzled on top of that. And then for a 3rd course, it could be a root vegetable omelet with goat cheese and potatoes, and maybe a side of fruit. So it's nobody leaves hungry. Oh, and then Tom makes homemade sausage. So we always have different kind of flavors of sausage or glazed bacon. And I should probably let Tom talk a little bit about his sausage because he's kind of known for it.
Ooh, Tom, tell us.
We do thank you. We do a sausage tower. And so, our breakfasts have just evolved, and they still keep evolving. Carolyn was talking about the pineapple pancake, and that probably went through about 12 iterations, and now we got it right. And it can all stop here because this is what we're going to stay with. And so we do 3 different sausages. We call them on a sausage tower, and our top sausage and these are all homemade. And one of the things that we do is we put out a little bit too much food because we know that some people aren't going to like sausage, or some people aren't going to like an omelet. And so people kind of get to pick and choose throughout the course of the meal in the morning of what what interests them and what doesn't. And so with our sausage, we have the one on the top of our tower is a maple cinnamon apple sausage.
Ooh.
And then we have the one right below that is a jalapeno cilantro white onion sausage.
Ooh.
So and it comes with a little bit of kick. Some people love it, and how it is in New Mexico. It's either too hot or not hot enough, and we can be talking about the same sausage, And then our the bottom one is our house sausage, which is a fennel, pear, sage sausage with a little bit of sprinkling of red pepper flakes in it. And so that's one type of meat we do. Then we'll do bacon a couple different ways, usually roast in the oven, but we'll do a peppered bacon, or we'll do a lacquered bacon. And so we like to go through, and one of the more difficult parts is sometimes we'll have people stay for a week or longer at the Grand Hacienda, and Carolyn insists that we never repeat the same breakfast to the guests, and so she keeps us on our toes as far as being very creative and inventive. One of the things that we do that
I just want to say the sausage tower.
Mm-hmm.
The sausage tower is inventive, and you should have been on we had a 4-hour sausage day radio show for National Sausage Day, 2 parts. I should say 2 links. We celebrated Sausage Day, and it came from friends who have a bed and breakfast in Asheville, the Lion and the Rose, and because they sing Sausage Day, because their dogs downstairs in the innkeeper's quarters here it's Sausage Day, and they know they get the leftovers. So it started this whole show, and we're going to do it again next year because we talked to sausage makers, boudin makers in Louisiana. We went to England. I mean, we got South Africa. We had a global sausage day celebration. Wow. And everybody's like, well, we have to do it again. And of course, we got naughty with it too, because it's sausage. So anyway, it was a very fun I'm sorry, it was fun. But we had a very fun time. So Tom, since you have an entire sausage tower, we are calling you for Sausage Day next year, which is usually the October 1st, everyone. So stay tuned for that. You're going to have to talk about sausage towers because I don't know anybody else who has a sausage tower, and that's pretty darn cool. So I'm just saying.
Thank you. And that sounds absolutely lovely, and not so much to get about the opportunity to talk about, what we do, but to learn from other great chefs. Carolyn and I like to go out to eat and just and be inspired by what we see other great chefs doing, and to be able to be part of that show, just to hear what other great chefs are doing. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, we had chefs. We had a 5-star chef, Ivan Flowers. We had Jeremy Manley over in Julian, it's just like the chefs. And that's the thing. Does that change for you as innkeepers, that when you go out, is your eating experience different? Because now you're like, ooh, can I take this and do something, that goes with that for the B&B? Does your eating experience and even lodging experience change as innkeepers? That's a interesting thing to think about for you guys. So Tom, you want to answer that on the sausage tower, or anything else you guys are cooking?
Well, yeah, I can tell you how our dishes come about is is we Jose Andres has a restaurant, the Bazaar in South Beach, and he's just a great
awesome.
soul anyway. But
oh my gosh,
we
he's
love
insanely
his
cool. Yeah.
yeah, and we love his creativeness, his inventiveness. And so when we were there, we got some mussels that were with real hickory smoke with the mussels and in a dome, and it's like we can do that. And so we don't do mussels, but we do ham. And so we take ham, and so this is, borrowed, not stolen, but borrowed from Jose, because it does, it's in different places. But we take ham and we put real hickory smoke in with our ham, and then we let that process for about half an hour before we serve to our guests. Then when we get to our guests, we give that to them just like Jose did, with their own dome-filled hickory smoke. And so, those types of ideas that we're always looking to borrow or to change a little bit from other chefs that we see and make them part of our presentation. And so hickory smoked ham is something that we also do at the Grand Hacienda.
Wow, that's so cool. Okay, Ernesto, I know your background. You've got restaurants in your background. So tell us about the food side. I know we talked about this before, but give everyone a refresher. What happens at Casa Escondida, and has it changed for you going from restaurant to innkeeping, serving breakfast?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think it's really different. Well, this is such a little environment, you know what I mean? Like with 8 rooms, and so you do, the intimacy is really different. And we've been having a good time, exploring with what we can do with what's around. I mean, that's been really different for us because, coming from California, we were so spoiled, is the truth, right? I mean, what we had access to year round in terms of fruits and vegetables it's just, California's kind of lucky that way, I guess. And so we've been, kind of figuring that out. I think I mentioned this last time, but one thing that Belinda had done a chocolate bread that, of course we got her recipes when we took over the place, and then we met this family that's down the street that they grow their own red chili. And so what we did was we started experimenting with adding the red chili into our chocolate bread and making this sort of sweet and savory bread. And I think Tom is exactly right. Everything is either too spicy or not spicy enough. And it can really change. We'd have 6 rooms, and 3 of the table, 3 of the rooms think everything's too spicy, and 3 of the rooms think everything is not spicy enough. So we try to kind of hit a medium area and then have, fresh green chili and whatnot that people can add on to make it hotter, unless we know, hey, these are return guests, and we kind of have little notes that say they like it really spicy or, something like that. And then we try to cater to that. But that's been something fun that we did, and this is the same gentleman actually who made our brand new ristas that we hang on the out in the porch area of Casa Escondida. So he's just right around the corner, and one of the things that's been nice is that our guests who come, when they compliment the red chilies, will say, well, you can go around the corner and buy some from him. And we had a lady come back, this was like 2 months ago, and she said, okay, I blame you guys because now I have to go and buy another bag just to put my red chili in that I'm going to take back, because where she's from, she can't get it at all. And she said, I'm just, I love it, and I want it on everything. So that's been fun. And then I'm not sure if I mentioned this last time, but we do a pozole is at least once a week. That's one of the pieces that we serve, and it's been interesting because our pozole definitely comes from a recipe that's just my own, and so it's a California version of. In California, the pozole is soup, which is, so we do it as a soup, which I know is a little different than the way New Mexico normally does it, but we've had really positive feedback, and people really like it. I have to tell Kim, she's my wife's cousin, and she's also our partner who's there all the time. But I have to tell her that she has a friend in Carolyn, because she also is really strict about not wanting to repeat things when we have guests who stay for a long time. And so I had to laugh when I heard Tom say that.
Yeah, I know. I think all of our friends who do it, they're like, okay, we're going to have to change up this menu, but that's, I think, the fun part. It's creative,
Oh yeah,
to
yeah,
do
yeah.
that.
It's
And
really fun.
yeah, you get to
Well,
do new things, but it is a challenge. It's still a challenge.
it is a challenge. It can be a challenge. Well, and one thing I was going to mention, we've sort of had an interesting thing where one of the things we ask the guests, when they're making their reservations, is if they have any dietary, needs or restrictions. And it's been sort of interesting to see the amount of vegans and vegetarians and gluten-free people that we have, because it sounds like historically Casa Escondida didn't have as many, but we definitely are getting a really good a good group of them. And so that's been, fun to, make sure that they're getting all the flavors and, deliciousness, even though, they don't have the meat products. And so, and one other thing I was going to mention is that we were really lucky. One of the photos, you'll see it later, there's an artist who who started helping us out in the kitchen, like while she also was doing her art on the side. And she happens to, we met her, she's not our direct neighbor, but she doesn't live too far away. And she happens to have recently she moved to Northern New Mexico, and she has her own little homesteading. So she has a place called Crane Wife Farms. And so we didn't know about this until she was working with us, and turned out that she had a bunch of chickens. And so whenever we can, we get to buy her fresh eggs, which of course eggs are a big of the breakfast. And so that's been fun for us, learning, how we can get red chili around the corner. And, we do have, this connection where they have their own eggs, and we can get those. But it has been, a learning curve, because we didn't know the area super well. So we had to really, try to figure out who to get ingredients from. And we found ourselves
have to
running
taste
into
it, cook
yeah.
and taste. So sad, so
Yeah,
sad.
yeah.
Yeah, you bring up, the area, and I think that's something we really want to delve into, what people can see and do. I know there's that thing of like, yeah, you were saying this, Carolyn, about people get, here's the list, I've got to do all these things. And yeah, I think travel is slowly changing, that people are going, I need to actually just relax a bit and have this experience. And so they may change down to maybe a few things and do them well, but everyone's different, right? Everybody is different in how they want to do it. But let's take a look at what people can do once they've checked in, they've chilled out for the evening. What are some of the things that people can do, Carolyn, out in the Abiquiu area? Of obviously Ghost Ranch, right? They can go there and do that.
Ghost Ranch is a huge one. And, Ghost Ranch has incredible hiking. They have, workshops and classes. There's a ton of movies that have been filmed there. So they have movie tours. And of course, one of George O'Keeffe's homes is located at Ghost Ranch. So there's a lot of O'Keeffe tours. She did a lot of paintings there too. So that's definitely a big draw. But George O'Keeffe's home in the village, she had two homes in Abiquiu, a winter home and a summer home. Her home in the village, where her studio and big gardens were, those you can tour. And so a ton, everybody wants to see that. It's hard to get tickets. You want to get tickets the minute you know what your dates are, so that you can be sure to take part in that. But a lot of the beauty is just kind of the geological landscape. Abiquiu is right where the Colorado Plateau and the Rio Grande Rift hit and intersected. So there's incredible mountains and valleys that have formed in the area. And so it's like a hiker's paradise. You could come for 3 months and hike a new and different, amazing place every day. And a lot of those places you hike are kind of remains of Puebloan ruins, and you'll find pottery shards, and you can find, tools and implements that show their life there. It's so untouched, especially as you hike up like into Sipping and you're on top of a mountain. It's just the evidence of the life of the Native Americans who lived here before us is just still here. And then finally, I would just say, there's a lake and the river, and there's fishing, and, you can bring your kayaks or canoes. You can actually bring a surfboard, because now we have a river wave. or a boogie board. So there's a lot of incredible things to do. And then
you're going to surf the river? You're going to surf the river?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
They do that in Colorado
and
Arkansas. That's cool.
Yeah, and they're actually saying it's one of the best riverways in the Southwest now. So it's funny to be in the desert and then see some people pull up with, surfboards on the roof of their car.
That's so cool.
But the thing that we love for people to make sure they carve out time for is just to be and to relax and to take in the land and the beauty and just make sure you have that time to recharge.
And you've got a jacuzzi. I saw pictures of the jacuzzi that you can get in.
We do. And the Milky Way goes right over the top of you.
No way. So you can sit there with a glass of champagne and be all warm. You've gone out for a hike, been connecting with nature, come back, make yourself a charcuterie board and sit down in the little jacuzzi, feel all good, have champagne and look at the Milky Way. Like seriously, that could happen.
Yeah. That's what happens. And
so
usually at least once or twice a week, Tom will pull out our telescope and show everybody. So you can actually see, the Jupiter's moons. You can see the ring around Saturn. I mean, we have no light pollution. So the night skies
but that's
are
huge.
just incredible.
That is so huge. I know, even coming out of big cities, right? But my thing is like, no. Why am I not there yet? Yeah, that's the thing. I know. It's like, you want to be everywhere, but it's like so that, just to be able to chill out and have that connection with nature. I really believe, we talk about climate change and all these issues that our world is facing, but the best way to start solving problems is to go out and connect with nature and be outdoors, see the magnificence and understand, like what you're saying about no light pollution. That's a huge deal in our country, to really, not just our country, but I mean, since we're talking about it in America, really to change it, because it does change even bird flight patterns, beneficial insects. I mean, we've done shows on it and with experts who can really get in there, but to be able to, as a human being, witness these magical wonders that we have, that we can see, that is a beauty. And a lot of people in cities have never seen the Milky Way, never experienced how close those stars feel. Like you feel more connected in the universe when you experience it, especially if you have a glass of champagne and you're sitting in a jacuzzi.
Absolutely.
Just saying, that's really cool that you do that too, Tom, to get people to do that. Do you find people haven't done that for a while? Maybe they did it when they were a kid, but haven't looked through a telescope and kind of get that little sense of excitement again when they do that?
Yeah, a couple of things that are pretty cool about that is that you hear so many people and that a lot of our guests, let's be frank, haven't seen a middle school textbook in a very long time. They're looking and seeing Saturn's rings around Saturn. They say, "Oh my God, I haven't seen anything like that except in my science textbook." And so it gets, they get to relive that again. But to me, probably the most amazing experience is, and everyone, whether they want to see the planets or not, but at night you can be laying down on your portal, and they're private, and you can have your own space there. And you can be looking up, and then you can see this cloud come over the sky, as it starts to darken up. And then you realize it's not a cloud. That's the Milky Way. That's your galaxy that you're a part of. It is so cool. Thick, it looks like there's a cloud over top of you. And then you understand that, no, those are each individual stars. And, a lot of people, that's transformative to a lot of people.
And then they start to understand, and then maybe we can make some positive changes too. And that's this beauty. That's what I talk about with bed and breakfast being this immersive experience. And when you check into a bed and breakfast, the innkeepers and staff know the area, can point you like, is this something you really want to do? Well, let me show you. Hey, this is something you may not find on Google. And that could be true, by the way, in New Mexico. Really, especially in Northern New Mexico, fill your tanks. Really, you may not always find, there's hidden wonders. And I think that's part of the enchantment of New Mexico, is to just get out there and explore. But Ernesto, let's talk about Chameo. What are people doing mostly when they come to stay with you?
Well, I was going to just say quickly, just based on something Tom just said, we have this room, it's called the Vista, that's upstairs with a deck. And we had a family, this was not that long ago, I don't know, maybe a few weeks ago, a month ago. Anyway, that was with, some kids and the parents. And when they got there, the mom had said to me, oh, we were a little bit stressed out because, the internet connection's not that strong and the kids are, they're going to be really wanting to get on their tablets and whatnot, And so we were like, uh-oh, hopefully this isn't going to go poorly, right? And then the next morning when I saw her at breakfast, she said, it was a very clear night, and Chimayo has very strict lighting. I mean, there you really can't have a lot of outside lighting for all of the things you guys are just talking about, and they really want to preserve the sky, right? And there's not a lot there, so there's not a lot of light pollution, and we're in the mountains. But anyway, so she comes down for breakfast, and she pulled me aside, and she said, "My God, you're not gonna believe this, but one of my kids went out on the patio, and then called for the other one, and they just laid out there." She's like, and they just wanted to look at the sky, and she said, I couldn't believe it. Like, they weren't asking to look at the screens; they were so mesmerized by the actual night sky. And I thought, yeah, that's really it, right? Like, when you can experience nature at its really truest, I think we're all more mesmerized than we would be at a screen. So,
That's
but
amazing.
anyway, but yeah, it was I think she was thrilled and the kids had a great time and we were relieved, that nobody was upset about the internet. But yeah, in terms of Chimayo, I mean, we, the very, very, very local stuff is that, I think I mentioned there are still lots of families who have been there for generations upon generations upon generations who are weavers. And so there are some weaving shops where people can go in and actually watch the weaving happen and talk to the weavers and hear about, a lot of times there's a story, within the weaving itself, right? And so that's one of the pieces that, that we notice that people love and that we've enjoyed. And then the Santuario is like 5 minutes from us. And so there's a real, even for people who aren't religious, I think there's, a real calm beauty. And you get to see there's some little tiny little shops that are kind of down this one little path when you're there. So you can get to meet some local artists, and that I think people really enjoy. And then we happen to be, I think a lot of times people who find us, they pick it because we're sort of a really good home base, right? Because we're 30 minutes from Santa Fe, we're 45 minutes from Taos, about 45 minutes from Abiquiu. And so what we'll end up noticing is that the people who do want to kind of go out and do different things on different days, that's what they'll do, is they'll sort of say, well, we're going to go this direction this day. And so right now, I know we're noticing a lot of people, they want to experience the snow, right? So there's some snow for us, but not a lot yet. But if they go, up into the forest and up into Taos, they'll find much more snow. So that's one of the things that they're enjoying. And of course, Santa Fe is so beautiful this time of year with the lights and stuff. And so that's another thing we've noticed, particularly families with kids want to go and look at the lights down in the plaza. And then there's the people who are, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of the plaza, but we were there for the lighting ceremony the day after Thanksgiving, and it was, people seem to be very excited about the holiday season coming. And then there's, the hot springs that aren't too far from us. And so that's another thing that we have people tell us even before they get there that they want to go do. But I think mostly we find that people are just relieved that they don't have the noise and they have the night sky and they can sort of have a little bit of peace. And then one thing that I have noticed recently that I've seen come up more is when you do the low road to Taos from us, either on the way back or on the way there, there's a couple of really cute wineries. And some of them are starting to do little places where they're having food trucks come in. And so that's been something that I've noticed that the guests are enjoying. And we always tell people if they're doing the low road back, there are these pullouts along the river. and the families can just sit there and watch the river at very close proximity. And I think for especially the young people seem to really love that, to see something really up close and the river's flowing nicely. And anyway, so those are a few things that we've noticed that people want to do.
That's interesting that you talk about, families and kids, because a lot of bed and breakfasts are kind of more adult than kids. Yeah.
Lisa, I'll say my stereotype coming into this as not being someone who's, owned a B&B before, was that mostly it was going to be adults and maybe even older adults. I think that was my stereotype of who was this guest going to be. And we've noticed, not that we don't have, older retired people, because we certainly do, but we've noticed that we get a lot of sort of the younger couples who are very outdoorsy, who want to come to Northern New Mexico. And then we get a lot of people who travel with dogs, because we have, a decent amount of our rooms, not all of them, but are pet friendly. So we get a lot of people who are coming through with their pets, and they're going to go on hikes and walks and whatnot with their four-legged family members. And certainly, I think maybe because we have a few rooms that can accommodate, the 4 people, we have seen much more than we would have thought, people who are coming through with their children. And we most recently had 3 different groups. They weren't all together, but there are 3 different groups, and they're actually families who are doing homeschooling, and they were specifically taking trips because whatever block they were doing around science and nature, they wanted to go to the river. They wanted to, go to a hot springs. And there were these very specific things that they were sort of teaching the kids. And I thought that was really interesting to hear about.
It's changing. Travel is changing. I want to go back to you, Carolyn, and Tom. Carolyn, maybe you answer this. With the hacienda, the way it's designed, are you seeing family groups coming to you guys and booking as like the whole hacienda as a group?
So that's a good question. We are adult only. We're a very kind of romantic kind of getaway. So we don't take children under 16 unless somebody books all 3 rooms, and that happens all the time. So we get a lot of family and friend groups that will come and book all 3 rooms, and then they're welcome to bring children. But if you're just taking 1 room, we are kind of a kid-free zone for someone's getaway. We also have
everyone's different. I think that's the beauty of B&Bs, right? Is everyone's got a different experience. I mean, you can travel all of New Mexico to go to every single B&B that is part of the New Mexico Bed and Breakfast Association, and each experience is going to be completely unique. And you pick what goes with who you are, right? So, Carolyn, I think that's cool. I mean, for people who really, listen, we all know what it's like to be on the airplane with a kid next to you.
Oh, actually, I feel like it's great information for me, because you guys are, I mean, you're not next door, but lots of our guests go to Abiquiu. And I feel like that would be really wonderful for me to share with the ones who would prefer, the privacy or the adult only elements. So I'm putting it down in my notes.
Well, thank you for that. And we actually share you all the time. We love for people to go to Chimayo, and there's a great restaurant there, and we like the Healing Dirt, and so there's so many incredible places all around Northern New Mexico, and we find that our guests go from one location to the next. They may stay with us for 3 days. They may go to Taos for 2 or 3 days, to Santa Fe, to Chimayo, and people really get a full sense. And each of us in the New Mexico Bed and Breakfast Association are different, and that's what's so great, is you can get a totally different experience at each one of our bed and breakfasts. Now,
if I can ever get my wife to be willing to not have our son with us, I'm gonna come book a night with you guys. But otherwise, I have to wait for there to be a huge group of us, or I have to wait 8 more years.
Oh boy, see what's happening. Oh boy, I love it that you guys are, these just amazing experiences. I mean, it's again these quality moments that we have when you travel. It is something special, and so that's why I always say try to stay independent and
Oh
contact the
yeah.
B&Bs. Do you guys, let's go to you first, Carolyn. Do you guys prefer people to contact you first or go through the OTAs, like bookings.com and Airbnb and stuff like that? Or do you prefer people to come to you directly?
We always prefer for them to come to us directly. I mean, it doesn't matter to us, but it's cheaper for them to come to us directly. So, the OTAs and, Airbnb and VRBO, booking, I believe booking, I mean, they charge booking fees, which of course we don't charge. And we actually, it's the cheapest rate you're going to get is when you book with us directly because we're not paying a commission. So we just pass that on to our guests. And all of our returning guests always get a discount as well. So they know if they want that discount, they know how to get it. And that's just by emailing me or going on our website, which is just thegrandhacienda.com. And they can book right through there. And if they're a repeat guest, they'll get a discount. And if they're a first-time guest, they'll get the best price. So,
right on. What about for you, Ernesto, at Casa Escondida?
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to take any guests that come along, however they get to us. but yes, our preference is that they go, to our website or that they call us. Partly exactly what Caroline said, that the price is the best price. I also feel like we find that we can give them the best experience if we're able to, connect with them ourselves, because we can answer questions that they might not know even to ask, is the honest truth. For instance, like the stuff I was saying about breakfast, right? Like we want everyone to be able to enjoy the food, right? And it's a big piece of experience. So if we can talk to them, and you can do it through the website as well. But if you went through a third party, you wouldn't be asked, right? So then we would know that you're allergic to garlic, or I don't know, whatever the thing might be. So yeah, we love to talk to them, and I also think it gives us a chance when we do get to do that, not only about the food, but we can sort of find out, like sometimes they're looking at a room that they think is perfect for them, but when we ask a little bit of questions, we find out, for instance, they'd prefer to be on the ground floor, but they actually picked, one of the rooms that are upstairs, as an example, right? And then if we're talking to them, we can say, oh, actually this one's ground floor, you wouldn't have to deal with the stairs, but you get all the things that you were looking for in the other room. So whenever possible, we love for them to come to us directly.
I love that too, because as a traveler, if you have a friend suddenly coming with you, you want them to be near you in a room, or maybe, you want to do an addition, like say, oh, you know what, I'm traveling, I travel with my mom and it's her birthday. And I like, oh, hey, can you add on like a champagne and chocolates or something? You can't do that through those third parties, and you can't do add-ons. You can't bring extra people. You can't book extra rooms unless you go through that, or even the cancellation thing's a whole other, don't even go. We don't want to go through that,
The third parties so challenging. Well, and the other thing, I think that Caroline mentioned that, for us, we're very lucky to have the Rancho de Chimayo, down the street from us, and many of our guests want to eat there. And so when they call us directly, we'll book a reservation for them to make sure they have a table, and we let them know what the hours are, because depending on the season, they change things up a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I think we love it when they call and or email us or go through the website so that we can connect with them directly.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. I want to close with one thing. Each of you give me one word so the audience knows one word that describes the experience at your bed and breakfast. Just one word. I know. Haha. Just one word. So let's start with you, Carolyn. Ladies first. One word that describes the Grand Hacienda.
Renewing.
Ooh. See, now I feel like we should be playing like games now. I want to get board games out. See, that's another thing you can do at bed and breakfast. You can read, you can play board games, you can make puzzles and all that kind of cozy goodness. I like that. That's a good word, Carolyn. Tom, what about you? One word for the Grand Hacienda.
Hard to hold me down to one word.
Barefoot.
Inspiring.
Ooh, I like that word. Inspiring. Very good. Okay, so over at Casa Escondida, Ernesto, what is your word?
I'm going to go with warmth.
Oh, nice. That's
Nice.
smart. It's winter. That's really smart. I love that.
And
That's
warmth in terms of heat, but I also mean warmth in terms of, the connection with others, right?
yeah.
There's So I
Cozy.
think I love, I, as a Californian, I fell in love with Northern New Mexico in the winter because, I grew up with no seasons, right, in Southern California. So I love the winter in Northern New Mexico. And there's something about that piñon in the air and the kiva fireplaces and the crisp air. I don't know. It's sort of delightful.
It's awesome. Everyone, casaescondida.com is the website for Ernesto's Bed and Breakfast with him and his wife, Renee, and also go to thegrandhacienda.com to go stay in Lake Abiquiu area and plan your trip for all these amazing experiences. We do this show every second Thursday, so you can hear about all these different bed and breakfasts. In January, we're going to look at where you can get married, hitched, eloped, all those good things. Whatever you want to do to unite, we're going to be talking about that and talking with more bed and breakfast. So go to this website, nmbba.org for New Mexico Bed and Breakfast Association, to stay tuned with that. And of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracious hosts, unique lodging, and tasty cuisine. New Mexico Bed and Breakfasts are New Mexico true. Our innkeepers are as special as New Mexico, and we're sharing their stories. Read about them and plan your trip at nmbba.org.